Hi, I'm Dr. Professor Alex Rema Zachariah, MD. My wife, Dr. Prema, we both are from India. We are retired physicians and professors, now live in Urbana, Illinois since 2005. Here I have with me David and Ruth, and they are staff workers of ISI, which is International Students Incorporated. David, Ruth, tell more about it.
Yes, well, we're happy to be here. Thank you, Rema. We're staff with ISI. I'm a campus minister, and one of the things we try and do is welcome international students, and there's a whole bunch coming this past week and to the University of Illinois. And the reason why we're excited about this is because international students really are going to be the next future group of world leaders. And one of the groups that we focus on a lot are actually the visiting scholars. I don't really view that I'm cool enough to be working with undergrads. I'm too old for that, but for visiting scholars and their children, we can be of help. We welcome them, help them in any way we can. If they're interested, we have Bible studies for them. But these scholars, they're going to go back to their positions as professors or others are government officials, business people, bankers. And they're going to go back to their countries, and we want them to, one, have a positive view of America, and we also want them to have a positive view of Christianity and hopefully go back with the knowledge of God to be able to strengthen the church worldwide.
And I see that you have a mixture. It's not just academic. You have bankers and you have people who hold high positions in different type of industries and so on. So these are visiting scholars.
Yes, they are. Yes, and the University of Illinois is a very high-level institution, and so the university attracts people from around the world, and so we're very thankful to be in this location. And actually, at least last year, the University of Illinois was the second as far as the largest number of international students on a particular campus. So the U of I was right up there in the very top.
So both of you took a historic trip to China, and that reminds me of Kissinger, the Nixon days.
Yeah, our trip to China was not funded by the U.S. government, but we did have the opportunity to go to China a couple of years ago, and the reason is that our organization, ISI, was going to have their national staff conference in Hong Kong, and since we were going to be in Hong Kong, we decided, well, we should definitely visit some of our friends, and especially in China. And so we spent about 3 weeks in China visiting our friends that we had been in our home and had been in our Bible study or other ways that we were meeting them. Ruth has a women's group that meets where they have English classes and other activities. And so we were able to go. And so we left, and this first slide that you can see is one of my favorite pictures. It gives interesting aspect of China. China is both modern and historic. You see the very modern cars and sign and so on. Then you see this guy on a bicycle carrying a big load. And so we see that China is a diverse country. And interestingly, Confucius said, to have friends coming from afar, is it not a delight? And we were just amazed at how warm and friendly the friends that we've had welcomed us into these different countries, different cities across China. And we flew into Beijing. It was a long flight, but it was very good, and it was just great. Our friend, who is a professor, who's sitting right behind me in the car there, she came to the airport to welcome us and to pick us up. And another friend of ours provided this very nice vehicle for us to come from the airport to the hotel. One of the first things we did was see China Agriculture University, and a couple of the students from our professor's friend showed us around. First, we had a nice stop in the student cafeteria, which was quite interesting for us in the sense that we didn't know what a cafeteria would be like in China. And obviously it was nice for our daughter to meet friends, some of them close to her age, and these people were very special friends. They became good friends even though we just met them for just a short time. Later that first day, we had a chance to meet a whole group of people who had been, these are all basically officials who had been to our home in Urbana. And it was just a nice time to interact with them. This is the first time they've been together. They came, I think, in around 2006 or so, but this is the first time they've been together since their time in Urbana. And so one of the leaders said, let's get together and invite them for dinner. So we had a private room in the restaurant, and it was just very nice. And so it was just a good time to talk. Most of them knew English reasonably well, plus we had the person translating. You can see our son James and John got along well, and James, it's very unusual for a person to be left-handed with their chopsticks. And so you don't see this in China very often. No. So he's not Chinese, but you can eat with left hands. And one of the more special things that actually happened was a very sad situation. One of the students here at the University of Illinois died in a very tragic auto accident. And we happened to have known that student. In fact, she had taken a trip with us. And so she had been attending our Bible study, and she was tragically killed. Her father came over 8 hours to visit us in Beijing, and he was obviously here in Urbana with his wife for the funeral, but he came to see us, and that really touched us very much, that he was willing to take an 8-hour trip to visit us when we were in Beijing. And so we had a very nice meal with him. And fortunately, our translator was there with us, this professor who was able to translate. But it was just very meaningful. And of course, our prayer is that both the father and mother and daughter will all be together in heaven one day. And so that is our prayer. While we were at the first dinner, one of the officials said, well, hey, if you're going to see the Great Wall, that's in my district. I'll have my driver take you there. So interestingly, the driver shows up at our hotel and with a very nice van for the 5 of us, and we head off to the one of the Great Wall sites. There's 1,000 from the parking lot. You go up the hill to the parking lot, and then there are 1,300 steps up to the Great Wall. The Great Wall runs along the top of the ridge of the nearby mountains. And so here you can kind of see the picture of the Great Wall, and it was very interesting to be there. It was a beautiful day, and we did it in the morning where it was less crowded. Ruth, do you want to say anything about the Great Wall experience? Or?
Oh, it was just, definitely a once-in-a-lifetime kind of dream fulfillment to be there and see it in person and think about the history that it represented for the Chinese people. Really incredible.
Yeah, and also on the way there, the tour guide, the gentleman who could speak English, the driver actually could not speak English, but the lower level official who could speak English went with us. He was asking us about Christianity and was telling us that did we know that there are more and more Christians in China, and he was actually interested in getting our opinion on that subject. So it provided certain opportunities for us as well. So we were continually amazed. And then after the special time at the Great Wall, we had a chance to meet his boss, basically, and have a nice lunch at a very nice restaurant. So we were treated like kings and queens. And this is our last day in Beijing, actually. And one of our friends took us to a very nice dinner. And obviously, it's a nice chance for our friends to remember, our children to remember the children of the Chinese scholars who were here. And so we see John and one of his Chinese friends and showing things.
They had played together often on Friday nights during our Bible study. So John was friends with this little Chinese boy as well.
Yeah. And the Chinese man was incredibly nice. He not only took us to the train station, but he got us in the right line, stayed with us in the line, got us on the right train car, And here he is making sure we got to the right train room. We took the soft sleeper train, so there's a little room where we could sleep. And he was also remembered the times that he went to our church as well. And so that was, we were able to encourage him that way by giving the website of our church. So from there we took the train, you see, from Beijing to Dalian. And Dalian is a coastal city. And there we met a friend of ours, a PhD student, and she invited us to her home. We stayed in hotels, of course, but most all the time. But this was a nice chance for us to meet her mother, as well as have a very special, authentic Chinese meal. As you can see, with us, our son James took this picture, but our youngest son John, and then our daughter Anna went with us, so there's a total of 5 of us on this trip. And our children, of course, enjoyed the special experiences. They had different, unique food to eat that you might not normally have here, but they did a great job of eating what they needed to eat. We visited the zoo in Dalian, and both of these guys have big feet that they're going to grow into.
That's a real tiger, or?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a real tiger.
That's not a puppet.
For $2 or $3, you could have the privilege of petting the tiger yourself.
And there was a zookeeper kind of with a very small little bamboo stick just outside the picture here. But I guess when the tiger got a little too big, or chewed off a couple of legs, they would change tigers. There's another one back there behind John as well. So there's actually 2 little lion cubs in this place.
Oh, this is a lion.
Yeah.
No, this is...
It's a tiger.
Tiger, yeah.
This is a tiger.
Also, this is our daughter. There was a elephant show. And so for another couple of bucks, you could take a trip and have the elephant pick you up and stand on his back 2 legs while it held you in its trunk. I thought it was my job to stay on the ground and take pictures, but everyone else in the family had the experience of going up with the elephant. How was it like, Ruth? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, it was great.
It was great.
Very unique.
I'll pass. And this is our kind of celebrity picture here. You can see all of us. I think James and John bought sunglasses in Dalian, and so we're all celebrities here with our shades on.
Well, they were proud that they had learned how to bargain with the Chinese.
Oh, they got really good deals on their.
That was the main goal.
Yeah, the goal. So they bargained for really competitive prices on these sunglasses. And so we left Dalian, and there's a proverb that says, "Love and faithfulness keeps a king safe, and through love his throne is made secure." And that kind of has to deal with our main focus. We're hoping that these leaders that we interact with will not only do the right thing, but they'll show God's love and justice. And we're praying that the next generation of government officials would really be that way. And then from Dalian, we actually flew to Nanjing. You can see Nanjing here. We could have taken the train, but that would have been around this body of water here. So Nanjing was, flying was the way to go. And we had some friends again meet us, and they were very happy to see us. We're always happy to see somebody we recognize when we get off the train. And one of the interesting things that we saw there in Nanjing was they had a museum that was actually built on a mass grave. Basically in the 1937 and 38, the Japanese came in and they just really brutally killed hundreds of thousands of citizens. They really don't know how many Chinese citizens, women and children, everybody. And so this was a very sad thing. And so this is a reminder of the brutality that can take place and the need for good leadership as well. And obviously in each one of these cities, there were people show up. We would have one person that would be kind of the the coordinator of our trip in that city, and the Chinese would talk on their cell phones, and we'd be visiting some place, a marketplace, and all of a sudden a couple of extra friends would come along and meet up with us, and so it was, we never know who, and so would show up, and so it was a great experience for all of us. And here we are in Nanjing, and we had kind of a welcome dinner where we could welcome the friends who we had known, and so this is one of the welcome dinners we had in we had one in each city, but this was a very special time for us. And then after the dinner, the Tsinghua River is a very small river, but it's kind of the center of culture and historic time, and so after dinner we took a night boat ride, and they have not only are the boats lit with different colored lights, but along the channel of this small river there was also many lights, and this was kind of a favorite experience for our daughter Anna. The next day, Professor Jinlin joins us for a brief Father's Day celebration. Ruth had somehow secretly gotten some of those, what are the flowers called?
Carnations.
Carnations, yeah.
Oh.
So we celebrated Father's Day, and Jinlin came by to say hello as well. And so that was a nice visit. While we were visiting this Chinese temple, 3 additional English professors joined us. That's about a 3-hour drive from Hefei. And so that was great to see. We were really impressed by how our Chinese friends would go out of their way to go ahead and visit us. And here we see again another proverb where it says, "By justice a king gives a country stability, but one who is greedy for bribes tears it down." And this is true of any country, and we need to be praying for our country as well as countries around the world that officials would do what is right, and bribery and corruption would be minimal. From Nanjing, we took the high-speed train to Wuhan, and the train system is very, very developed. The space between the platform and the train is just a couple of inches, actually. And we were happy to see our professor and his wife had a nice van for us, and they were waiting for us in Wuhan. Wuhan was the only place where we actually stayed with a Chinese professor. And because most of the Chinese, their apartments are really pretty small. And so we had a group of 5, and it was difficult for most people to, but it was very special for us to spend some time with him. And we had some books along with us, and so we had given him a book by Dr. James Dobson. It was translated into Chinese characters, and had to do with raising teenagers right. And he had a teenage son, and we hope he benefited from that. And so we saw then again our professor friends would take us around different scenic areas of Wuhan. As you can see again, pollution is a real issue in China. This is pollution, and so it was a very hot day, and I am relatively good with pollution, but I had a kind of low-grade headache oftentimes in China just because of the air we were breathing. And in Wuhan, we happened to have the opportunity to visit a church. Here's a church probably over 100 years old, and we had a chance to visit that. And there was a bookstore there. It was very hard to find, but that was quite interesting as well. There was a Christian bookstore. Ruth, do you want to talk about this picture?
Oh, I just love seeing this little boy doing his homework on the back of his bicycle when he was being picked up from school, because it just was such a typical illustration of how hard the children work at school, and then even at home. They have very little free time, very little time to enjoy themselves. But he's diligently working there. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of pressure on the children to achieve, because there's tests all the way along from, and there's tests for 8th graders going into high school, and the issue is, will they get into a premier high school, or will they get into a lower high school? And so there's a lot of pressure on the youth. And on top of that, there's a one-child policy as well, where so all the eggs, if you like, are riding on one child. And here's one of the universities we visited in Wuhan. This is their main library area, probably very similar to the U of I's, except the air conditioning. And here's one of the dormitories. You can see it's very common to see clothes hanging out in the lines for drawing purposes throughout China. And this is a very special family that we get to meet. And do you want to tell us a little bit about this family, Ruth?
Well, I had met Lily through the International Women's Connection, the woman in the striped dress, and they had their daughter with them. But while they were in the U.S., Lily had also become pregnant with her second child. But as the one-child policy we mentioned in China, some of the father's colleagues back in China said some things about his wife being pregnant with a second child here that caused them some real difficulty. And we were able, our church and friends all kind of pitched in. We had a baby shower for her, supported them and encouraged them. And so that's their second child, that little boy there that he's holding. It's a real blessing to the family.
And we're so glad that China is now relaxing a little bit the one-child policy. And so we're very pleased with that. But this was a very special time, one, to see their son, as well as, because he was just an infant, but also they were very touched by the love of God through the women who ministered to them while they were here. And this professor, he also was kind of unique in the sense that he was a very friendly guy and invited many of his colleagues to our Bible study. And Professor Wu came and became a special friend of ours as well. And so it was great to see him. And he came to see us even though his wife was expecting a baby. And there was some concern over her pregnancy. And he was also wanting his students to learn about the Bible as well as American culture. And actually the Bible is a very good book as far as when it comes to learning about the American culture, because much of our foundation has to do with that. And one of the wives of one of the professors was a teacher of, I think, 6th grade or something like that, and she invited us to come to her class the last minute, actually, and see if we'd be interested in teaching a very short class on the English class about the Bible and American culture, and I did that, and Ruth did that, and even our kids did. And so we on the way we drove. We never drove in China. We always had drivers drive us, because they're actually very good drivers, but they drive all over the place. And so here you see them driving. And we got to the school just at a good time, and our children were able to share some of their experiences as well, and the class asked them questions about what their favorite movie was and things of that sort. And then they had time after class to interact with our daughter Anna, our son John, and so on. And so we see here in Wuhan, kings take pleasure in honest lips. They value a man who speaks the truth, and we need to have officials that speak the truth. And from there we took the high-speed train. You can see it's 331 kilometers per hour. That's 206 miles per hour. That's the fastest I think I've ever been. It was like an airplane, except you had more leg room. And our professor met us in Guangzhou, and we had a nice hotel. One of the main rivers going through Guangzhou, we had a very nice dinner on the boat, which is nice. The people really appreciated the times that they had spent with us, and so they really treated us like kings and queens. Our friend, Anna's friend, who had been a pen pal for a number of years, they got to see each other again, and actually she is returned and is now a freshman at the U of I, or actually a sophomore. There's interesting history in one of the museums. We saw about Robert Morris and how he was able to translate the Bible. So that was even in the public museum. But here we kind of end our trip, and we see that in Guangzhou, there's an Exodus. Moses receives the advice to select capable men from all people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain. And so our prayer for China is that God would raise up godly officials for China, as well as godly officials for our country here as well. So we're hoping to encourage these visitors we have in the United States to really do the right thing and be brave and courageous and be a blessing as they return to their countries.
This concludes the three-part series that we had with David and Ruth concerning the wonderful work that's being done here in Urbana, where I'm also associated with it. And but we'll be back because we like to bring some of these visiting scholars. With both of you or one of you, you would bring them to tell us their experience and how they enjoyed the time with you all. And one thing I noticed is that weren't you really kind of touched by the warmth and the love and affection they poured out?
Oh, yes.
Very much, very much. We never expected that, and it was just really exceeded our expectations in every way, and it gave us such a much better understanding into their world and their life. So
culturally, Chinese are not very expressive, but their hearts are big.
Oh, very, yes, very generous.
Plus, it was very educational for us in the sense that we were able to understand, not only learn where the cities were, and but also we could say we've been there, and when they find out that we've been to their hometown, it's like we're brothers and sisters practically, Yes. And so that's been great for us to be able to at least visit these 5 cities, major cities in China.
And thank you for watching us.